When I first made the recipe for this peach pie filling, I couldn't believe how good it tasted. Even my daughter, who strangely doesn't even care for peaches, was coming for seconds with this peach pie. It is so good, such a great way to preserve the peach. I start by blanching my peaches. If you need to learn how to do that, take a look at my video for it. And then I place them in a saltwater solution that's 1/4 of a cup of salt and 1 gallon of water. It takes somewhere around 2 pounds or 6 medium peaches to fill up 1 quart jar. So I do somewhere around 24 peaches. Mine are slightly larger than the medium that I would usually think of. So we'll see just how many this ends up making. Then I'll take my peaches and slice them in half and pull out the pits. I really recommend doing a freestone peach for this. There's 2 different kinds. There's clings and freestones, and the clings, like it sounds like, kind of cling to the peach, as opposed to the freestones, which pull right out. And then I'll slice it up into about 1/2-inch wedges. And I'll measure these out because I'll need 4 cups for every quart that I'm going to do. So I want to slice up somewhere around 28 cups worth of peaches. And then I take my sliced peaches and I actually pour them back into the water. So this is 8 cups at this point. I'll need to keep measuring, but I don't want those to start to go brown. So I want them back in that salt water. And then I'll continue to slice peaches until I get to that 28 cup mark. Now I've placed a pot of water on the stove and I'm bringing that to a boil. While I'm bringing that to a boil, I'll add 7 cups of sugar to a big pot. I want this to be pretty deep because this will have to hold all of the filling. Then I'll add 1 1/3 cup of clear gel, which is a modified cornstarch. And what this will do is thicken it up, but I couldn't use just a standard cornstarch, otherwise it would expand too much, so it's not good for canning. And I'll add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Then I'll mix all of those dry ingredients together first, because if I was to put water in right away, that clear gel would just clump up as soon as it hit it. But once it's dispersed in the sugar, then I don't have to worry about that. The nice thing about having the cinnamon in here too is that it gives you a little bit of an idea of how well you've mixed it. Then I'll add 5 1/4 cups of cold water. Again, the cold water just makes it so that it doesn't clump quite as easily. And I'll mix that in well. You may get a few small clumps right now, but as long as they're little, they should come out while it's cooking. Then I'll place this on the stove and I'll cook it until it's thick. Now that it's thickened up nicely, it's starting to bubble a little bit. The little clumps have all, for the most part, dissolved. I'll add 1 3/4 cups of lemon juice. And this is kind of a timing thing because I need to add this in, mix it really quick, and then I need to jump over to my pot of boiling water and add my peaches. Okay, and that lemon juice cools that down a little bit and thins it out so that you have time to work with your peaches. And I'll scoop out all of my sliced peaches and get them into that water as fast as I can. I'll put in about half of my peaches here, and then I'll stir my syrup again because I don't want it to start to burn. And then I'll do the rest of my peaches. I do have a couple of whole peaches in here still because I didn't end up needing them, and I'll just save those and do peach preserves or peach freezer jam or something like that today. Now that I have all my peaches in there, I'll set my timer for 1 minute. And while that 1 minute is going, I'll stir my syrup the entire time. If you don't stir it at this point, it will start to pop up out of the pan. And now I'll transfer my peaches over to my syrup. I want to try to get as much of the water out of them as possible. And you can see that even though it's been a good while since I cut these, they aren't brown. And now that they've blanched in the water, they won't have any of the salt flavor either. About the point that I've got half of my peaches transferred over, that's when I stir them in because I don't want to risk burning this on the bottom. I try to be somewhat gentle because I don't want to mash up those peaches, especially since these ones were overripe, so that means that they're a little bit softer. And so now I'll stir in the rest of those peaches and I'll set my timer for 3 minutes and I'll allow those peaches to cook for 3 minutes in the syrup. Then I add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. This is optional, but I really like the little bit of creaminess that it adds to it. And I wouldn't want to add it before I cooked because if I did, then it would cook off the vanilla flavor. So then I'll just gently mix that in, trying to get it so that there's a little bit of vanilla in all of it. But again, I don't want to squish up those peaches. So then I'll fill up my quart-sized jars to 1 1/4 inch of headspace. Headspace is a space from the top of the food to the top of the jar. I've just found that this one expands a little bit more, so it needs a little bit more space at the top. This is actually one of our favorite peach recipes, this one and then just basic canned peaches. And it's because I can do so many things with it. You know, I can make a peach crisp, which is really good. I can make peach pie. And then my favorite is the peach cobbler. I'll put a link to that recipe below because that one is really fun to do with this. So I end up getting 9.5 jars worth, which is actually great because my canner will do 8 jars. So you would think I would be upset about that last one, but my family gets so excited when it's time for me to have these again that they want me to open them right away. So what I'll do is I'll set aside that 1.5 jars, I'll make my peach cobbler, and I'll can up these 8, and then they'll be safely sealed in my pantry. I'll use a wooden chopstick to debubble my jars so that if there's any air trapped in there, it will release it. And I'll use a clean damp cloth to wipe off the rim of my jars so that if anything got on the edge, it won't interfere with the seal. Now I'll place my lids and rings on until they're fingertip tight. I'm using Superb lids today, and they are my new favorite. They're American made, really good quality. I feel like they're thicker. They have this amazing pop when it seals down. There's no doubting whether or not that's sealed. And it has this super squishy seal around it that does just a great job of adhering to the jars. In fact, it's supposed to seal for up to 36 months as opposed to the 18 months that the standard lids do. I have a link as well as a discount code in the description below. Now I'll place these in my boiling water bath, submerged by 1 to 2 inches of water, and process them for 30 minutes if I'm at sea level. I'm at 1,200 feet, so I'll process them for 35. But I won't start my timer until after it starts to boil. Now that my timer's gone off, I'll turn off the heat, remove the lid, and let it cool for 5 minutes. I place my jars on a heat-resistant surface about 1 to 2 inches apart so that they can cool quickly. I'll leave them there for 24 hours so that they can get a good seal. I know that they have a good seal if the center of the lid has depressed down. If it has, then I'll remove the rings, wash the outside with hot soapy water, and store them in a cool, dry, dark location like my pantry and use them in the next 1 to 3 years. If any of them didn't seal, I would place it in the refrigerator and use it right away. So for the taste tester, I have my little jar that wasn't quite full. It is so good. The best way to describe it is that it has those lovely chunks of peaches, which I love the peach flavor anyways. And then it's got this really smooth syrup with just that hint of cinnamon. And it's just a little bit tart from the lemon. I mean, it's so good. And seriously, pie, putting it on waffles or pancakes, and definitely the peach cobbler.